Hi everyone, and welcome back to GPT Dreamin'. If you're like me, then you're feeling energized and ready to dive into another exciting day of AI exploration. I'm your host, Mark Good, and today's lineup will include some information and demonstrations that will show you how AI is pushing the boundaries of what's possible. If you learned one thing from yesterday's sessions, it's that AI solutions are not just a future deliverable. They're already here and ready to be used by end users, GPT specialists, and forward-thinking organizations. With that said, let me introduce Bradley Rice, a forward-thinking individual and visionary leader who is at the forefront of AI's impact in the Salesforce ecosystem. As the founder of Talent Stacker, he is dedicated to empowering new talent in the Salesforce industry and helping existing professionals level up their skills. With over a decade of experience in Salesforce and a strong vision for AI adoption and skills transformation, Bradley's expertise sets him apart from the field. From running a successful consultancy to imparting his knowledge to others and serving as a community leader, Bradley brings a wealth of insights on how AI is shaping the future of Salesforce in the ecosystem. Without any further delay, let's welcome to the stage Bradley Rice.
Hey, everybody. So it is a pleasure to be here hanging out at the very first GPT Dreamin'. So that's a pretty wild thing that has obviously swept the Salesforce ecosystem and largely outside of the Salesforce ecosystem as well in the last, 6 to 9 months. And it's pretty incredible that we're all, I would hope, enjoying this wave. And if not, we're going to be enjoying it a lot more after this GPT Dreamin' event, because we're going to feel way more informed about sort of what's going on here and how we can put ourselves in a position to adopt AI and GPT functionality inside of Salesforce orgs. So this presentation is really about AI talent and tech in the Salesforce ecosystem. That little QR code down there, if you want to find me on LinkedIn, feel free to take a quick picture of that. Otherwise, just search Bradley Rice on LinkedIn, and I've got the crazy bright orange banner. But anyway, all right, so let's get into it. First, I'll talk a little bit about sort of who I am and what Talent Stacker is. So I am the founder of a company called Talent Stacker. And historically, what we've done is we help people get the talent they need and stack the talents they need to become Salesforce professionals. And that means it really doesn't matter if you're a school bus driver or a bartender or an accountant or anything in between, and you want to become a Salesforce professional, like a business analyst or an admin or a developer, you can absolutely do that. And we help you get the skills and talents that you need in order to do that. So what does that look like? Basically, we've helped just over 2,000 people in the last 2 years break into Salesforce entry-level jobs with our paid resources. And I think the even more incredible part from my perspective is we've helped just over 30,000 people get into entry-level jobs through our free resources. So we spend a lot of time on free. So if you're not aware, we have a lot of free guides like our 5-day challenge, a lot of people have heard of, but other things they haven't heard of is we have a toolkit for established Salesforce professionals. We have freelance guides, we have LinkedIn guides, we have interview guides, and then we just do a lot of content. Probably so tired of hearing me talk if you've seen some of this content, because we're just all over the place. But everything from TikTok to podcasts to Facebook groups to YouTube and pretty much anything else you can imagine. So that's what we do. We just help talent get into the Salesforce ecosystem. So why does that matter today? We're a GPT Dreamin', we're hanging out talking about AI and GPT. Well, it matters because GPT has emerged, not just GPT, but AI in general has emerged as a talent, as a skill that is becoming more and more prominent. And we know with the release of not only Einstein GPT, but basically all of the GPT clouds across the Salesforce ecosystem, not to mention, I would strongly bet we're going to start seeing Salesforce AI certifications, and we're going to start seeing employers looking for AI trained and skilled individuals. So that matters to me, right? Like if you operate a company that helps people break into Salesforce jobs and you help existing Salesforce professionals to take it to new heights, then you need to be on the front edge of what's going on here. And so for us, AI has become I'll say dinner table topic as far as how we can utilize these tools to better our program, but also to give our members and community more talent. All right, so I'm going to jump from this and let's see what's next. So how are roles changing? I hope this doesn't offend anybody. I'm going to stick to three roles, and I know these can be named 15 different things each. I know that we all go by different roles. I know you're not going to see anybody labeled here as a consultant versus an architect versus an internal. I don't have room on any amount of slides for all the different names that we call ourselves in Salesforce professional ecosystems. So we're going to stick to business analysts, admins, and devs. And if you don't know, I've heard Elements Cloud, Ian, talking a lot about business analyst and the importance of the emergence of business analysts in the Salesforce ecosystem. And I'm 100% on board with this. The reason is, as you may have already heard in previous, presentations, the BA role is going to be huge. We've got to have documentation on point. We have to have everything that we're operating with inside of the Salesforce org, from data to metadata, and everything in between, those underlying descriptions and just how we notate things inside of our Salesforce orgs. Otherwise, this is largely not going to function well on using functionality like GPT or AI in general. Why? Because it's largely reliant on those inputs. It's kind of like we've always heard, like bad data in, bad data out. Well, now it's sort of like bad metadata in, bad metadata out. And so when it's making suggestions, when it's moving through its programming to understand how to give accurate outputs to end users and administrators, and potentially even actually building functionality for us inside of our orgs as we move forward, that business analyst role is massively changing, massively more important. Now, let's step out of inside of the Salesforce org and just think business analyst in general. We're talking about organizing meetings, meeting notes, requirement gathering, asking the right questions and learning when to push back and how to, get solid requirements. And then also working to liaison with teams to build requirements documentation and solution architecture. And so when you look at the strengths of even end user functionality, and when I say end user, I mean not in a Salesforce org, so just using something like ChatGPT, just being able to use these tools to more quickly garner these meeting notes and this requirement documentation and all these things is huge. So it's going to be helpful across the board, but especially when we look at business analysts, number one, their role just became a lot more meaningful. It's already been very meaningful in today's working world. Even if the BA certification was just introduced last year, we already know it's a massively important role. But now we're going to see it play into the ability of AI and GPT to really show you those, really proficient results inside of an org. All right, so admins, you think, well, what could this possibly do for admins, right? Well, number one, admins function on a lot of the things I just talked about for BAs. We all know that typically in companies, people wear multiple hats. It's not as simple as I'm a BA and you're an admin and I don't do that and you do this. It just doesn't work that way. So admins, from my perspective, have gotten a major lift in that they do get to use GPT as end users, especially as it improves for things like formulas, validation rules, as it becomes trained on Salesforce specific content, which you can do that today if you teach your own language model. You can get it to give best practice results for Salesforce in today's date. We know there's age training data, so that can be a little bit of an issue, but it helps with a lot of things, even carrying into maybe writing basic triggers if you're trying to learn dev, and not just triggers, but really writing code generally speaking. And that carries over into developers. And basically, the way I look at this is AI and GPT are largely assistants to the Salesforce professionals. Like, it's not going to function on its own, at least not as we're seeing it today and not as we're seeing it in the near future. This is largely going to be dependent on you being the professional and the AI being the assistant. So if that's true, I see that today and going forward, even more so, devs are going to be able to use this as a prop to say, hey, this trigger isn't working correctly. This Lightning Web Components, underlying code isn't working correctly. Let me drop this into the GPT, let it give me a check, see how things are going, and then put that back in the system with quick fixes. So there's a lot of different ways we can see this. I'm not going to sit on it too long, but the bottom line is roles are rapidly changing. And if you find yourself as one of these people who's like, I'm not really going to adopt AI or GPT or anything in between because I'm happy in my current role, that's okay, but you're going to get past. This is not like CPQ functionality coming out. This is not just another Salesforce cloud. This emanates over all Salesforce clouds, all roles, all functionality. So this is not as simple as just saying, well, I don't really want to learn CPQ or field service lightning. So I'm not going to train on that. It's not really up to you. This functionality is going to be embedded in all clouds of the Salesforce ecosystem. So the expectation for you to be trained on how to utilize this functionality, I believe over the next 12 months is going to become almost a requirement. All right. So are we drinking our own Kool-Aid? Am I going to sit here and tell you how you need to adopt AI and GPT and then turn around and find that in my life, we're not doing it? So we are doing it. So here is a quick screenshot of one way Talent Stacker is adopting GPT in our world. So this is sort of inside one of our program courses. And this is what we call the Salesforce AI Launchpad. We had the privilege of having Mark Good, who I'm sure you all know at this point, from AI Force Training, jumping in and assisting our team with building out AI and GPT technology into the process of landing a Salesforce job. If you look at that sort of that purple highlighted section there, that'll show you most of the course headers for this, but you're looking at utilizing AI and GPT for LinkedIn branding, copywriting posts, personalized job searches, resume writing, volunteer project use cases. So actually utilizing this to solution for problems, and interview prep, having GPT functionality actually interview you. So there's a lot that you can use it for in the job search to build confidence and be better prepared to become a Salesforce professional. Now you can use it for 1,000 other use cases, but this is our bread and butter, and this is the process we wanted to apply it to most directly. So hopefully that makes sense. All right, so moving along, got another slide on how we're adopting this. So I wanted to touch on the fact that AI is shaping the Salesforce space. We know that. I just talked about it for the last 10 minutes. But how is it shaping the AI space? Like, what are we seeing? Because when I think about when I was considering paying out of Talent Stacker's pocket for the training for our individuals to become GPT and AI specialists, we had to determine if this was actually a value add, right? Like, we're spending money. And when you think about how you're going to spend your time or your money, or your resources, if you're a business owner or a decision maker at a business, your resources time adopting this technology, there needs to be a value proposition. And the reality is I had to check that too, right? Like, is this just a trend? Is this just one of these, fun waves that we can all hop on and it'll be cool to post on LinkedIn and whatever else? And if that's it, I don't really need to spend a whole lot of time on it. Like, that's cute, but that's okay. But this is not one of those things. And the reason you can see this, you can see it emanating across the Salesforce ecosystem. We do not have to wait on any type of Salesforce Einstein cloud. We do not have to wait on a trust layer. We do not have to wait on any permission to utilize this technology, because this technology is here today, right now, in front of you at your keyboard. You can click the little red X on this Zoom. Don't do that. And you can hop in and start using this functionality today. So how do we know that? Well, number one, we see cutting edge AI apps on the App Exchange already. You heard from Michael Leach earlier this week, iDialogue. This is a prime example of apps on the App Exchange already being not only infused, but strongly as part of their core functionality, utilizing AI and GPT technology. We have also seen the emergence of what I believe to be the first AI-specific Salesforce consulting company. So an entire consultancy based on doing AI implementations and enhancements inside of Salesforce orgs. So you're already seeing the wave not only sort of emerge, but it's already here. The wave is moving. So you're seeing companies like AI Force Training doing dedicated AI training. There's a reason for that. It's not because you want to create a company that trains on something that doesn't matter. It's because you're creating a company on things you know are vitally important to the ecosystem. And if that's not enough, you've seen a full Salesforce rebrand to infuse the letters GPT into pretty much all of its marketing and all of its naming conventions for its cloud. Not to mention, just head over and try to register for Dreamforce 2023. And why not just count the number of times AI is mentioned on just the homepage of Dreamforce 2023. You're going to find that not only are we talking about third parties like AI Force and iDialogue, App Exchange apps and training platforms, but we are talking about Salesforce themselves putting a mighty push on this functionality. And once again, this is not just another cloud. This is not just another feature functionality you can add on. This is an entire technology that is going to emanate over the entire Salesforce ecosystem. All right, demo time. Let me see if I can pull this off. Okay. All right, we've got a contact. If you've used Salesforce at all, I hope you're familiar with a contact. So this is my contact. Obviously, this is a sandbox. We do not have the ability. I mean, I guess we have the ability, but I'm not going to have everybody sign a non-disclosure. So this is a sandbox, but this is this is very recently refreshed from our production org. So I'm going to show you this, and this is actually Talent Stacker's Salesforce org. So as we come down, I wanted to show you one way that we've implemented AI and GPT into an org. I did not say it as an end user. You're not going to see me open up OpenAI's website and go to ChatGPT. That is not what we mean when we talk about Salesforce, AI in the Salesforce ecosystem. We're talking about it actually being built into Salesforce orgs. So when I go into this org, there's nothing special here, right? There's a couple of things I want you to know. Come down. We've got this job landed section. Unfortunately, Bradley Rice has not landed his Salesforce job yet. And that's all right. Still working on it. Still got lifetime support through Talent Stacker. No big deal. And we're going to get there one step at a time. But I want you to notice none of this information is populated. So I'm going to come over here and let's see, this is actually my email. So I want to make sure I've got this queued up. So I want support to ignore this because this is actually going to go to our support team here. And this is going to be an email to Case that's going to be pushed through. We've got some kind of funny stuff. Want to send an update. I landed a job at this little company called Google. Don't really know what they do. Some different things, search engines, emails. We'll find out soon. Didn't really want to negotiate, accepted an offer at $75,000. And I really think it was meant to be because I got the offer on Matthew McConaughey's birthday. And I know how much he loves Salesforce and definitely isn't being paid for his videos. He just loves it so much. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and send this off. So nothing has happened yet, and we'll probably need to refresh here shortly as that email comes in. For now, if you're like me, you probably, when you're waiting for things to load, if you're like me, like hop over to YouTube Shorts or TikTok and watch a couple videos while things load. So with that in mind, I'm going to let you watch for 60 seconds a quick video of what my backyard looks like and what my morning routine looks like. All right, so that is our backyard. And really that was just to distract you for a moment while we wait for things to happen, like cases to load in and automations to take place. Usually this takes, being honest, probably about 20 seconds, 20 to 30 seconds. So it's not instant, but these automations do take time. And I think you'll be pleased with what actually happened while we were checking out a video of some chickens and goats. And I love those things. I'll talk about them all day. So I'm going to stop talking about them because I will literally just go off. So those are other talents I like to stack is homesteading. But let's get back into Salesforce GPT AI. All right. So I am going to click refresh on this contact and let's see if we've got some action. All right. It's a beautiful thing. So I'm going to take you down and show you something that happened while we were here. We actually, hopefully, have some job landed information. And so the job has been landed. It was landed today at a company called Google. We're going to run some alumni automations, which is outside of the GPT frame that actually pushes out some other integrations to send some automated emails and things like that. And we've got a salary of 75,000. And if you were paying attention to that last email that I sent, then you will know that there's a reason this all took place, right? We had this case roll in. And when this case rolled in, sort of walk you through what happened here. Number one, this is what happened, right? We get the subject, support, ignore. I did it. I landed my first Salesforce job. Put that in twice. That's okay. I wanted to send an update and thank you all for your support in landing my first role. This is the exact email we just sent, right? So let's take a look at this. This is part of the magic. Here's AI's proposed email response to this individual. Something I want to point out, like I know how human brains work. So like, I know you're trying to read this AI email real quick. So if you're doing that, like press pause, save your spot. I want to talk to you 1 second about this email. So the first thing to note is that built into this functionality are talent stackers standard operating procedures. The system picked up, GPT actually, picked up, or I should say a large language model that we're communicating with, picked up on the fact that this is a job landed email. And there's very specific standard operating procedures for a job landed email. We have to read that email. We have to determine, are there any meaningful data points inside of that email? Or should we just say, hey, congratulations, and maybe ask for more data? Or is there data that we can garner and then put that into our Salesforce org so that we can track our member job landed each month? So there's a lot that goes into dissecting one of these emails. For that reason, this was one of the first support processes we worked on. You'll also know in the intro, I mentioned that we had about 2,000 individuals land jobs or assisted 2,000 people in landing jobs through the program in the last 2 years. That means there's a lot of this happening. There's a lot of this email coming in that we have to work with. In reality, this takes about 15 minutes typically. It will take us about 15 minutes to receive one of these emails, dissect it, respond with a meaningful response, update our data in Salesforce, and then actually send them a response back with what we need to say. Now, the problem is a lot of times support will not include everything that we would like to be included, but because this is referencing our standard operating procedure documentation, it is going to pick up on all of it. Now, what a support rep does now is they come in and they review this email. And if they love it, they can just copy and paste it to the actual member. And this can be the email, but they do have to review this email. So I'll say we went from about 15 minutes to about 5 minutes for this process, because now the process is come in, read this email, make sure you like it, go check the contact record, make sure the data was updated accurately, and then send it off to your contact. So let's take a look at what was actually included here. This is the beautiful part. We get a personalized email. So it's not just a template email. So a template email is standard to Salesforce, right? We can just use a templated email, but that's not personalized the way you would like it to be personalized. And so they're over here talking about Matthew McConaughey's birthday. We don't just want to ignore things that they're saying if possible. So congratulations. It's actually letting you know Google is a well-known tech company. It is not some small tech company called Google. It's a well-known tech company. So thanks for sharing those details. Now for next steps, number one, 75,000 is a fantastic offer. I'm going to be honest, this is better than usual. Now that's because you get variations in the response from GPT. This is on the high side. I would say this is a top 20% response. So I appreciate this for functioning this well today. Now there are times when it will tell me, it won't give me the exact link. It might say insert, the Facebook group's link or something like that. You might see something in here that just seems kind of erroneous, that doesn't belong. But for now, it's like, hey, go join the alumni Facebook group. That's a great suggestion from our standard operating procedure. Check out the Talent Stacker Career Accelerator program. So a lot of people don't know, even our own members, that we have a second step, sort of that masterclass program where if you're already a Salesforce professional, then you can now take that next step into starting your own consultancy. You can freelance on the side. You can establish better work-life balance. You can do things like negotiate for a raise with actual strength. You can use your skills that you have today to transition from what you're doing today into your dream job versus the job you have today. So there's so many things you can do with your career and actually design your career. So this is letting them know about the free toolkit that we offer, but then also asking them to go check out some things like the Talent Stacker Career Accelerator program. So obviously, quick pitch, you guys can do all that here. A lot of existing Salesforce professionals don't know that Talent Stacker, as of this week, actually on Monday, debuted a program specifically for individuals who are already established in Salesforce careers. And we had some early access members join in. And I think you'll be really impressed by their results. But basically, we see ROIs in this in 5 different ways. And there are 5 unique ways that we can pretty much guarantee that you're going to make any investment you make in this program will be paid back in less than a month, just because of what you're going to get out of it. And then the rest of your access is going to be far and beyond what that is. So if you're actually interested in advancing your Salesforce career from wherever you're at now, I can pretty well guarantee you this will do that for you. All right. So coming back over to this email, it lets them know we're part of a referral program. There's a referral program for Talent Stacker. There's some things in here that I wish it had mentioned that it didn't. Like we have some text around how much our referral program pays out, so that's very clear. We have like our top 3 referral partners make an average of $3,000 to $5,000 a month doing referrals, because we do pay very, I would say, generously. So there's some things in there that I wish were included, but they're not, and that's not the end of the world. It's okay. For anyone who lands a job, we ask that they include 2 interview questions back to us, so that we know what they were asked in that interview, so that we can build out some of our databases around commonly asked interview questions. And then there's, of course, a member survey, so we can get things like if they didn't give us the company, if they didn't give us the industry, if they didn't give us the dollar amounts, we ask for other things like your typical demographic data, so that we can make sure that there's equality and balance in the companies that are hiring our members. It makes a little connection about Matthew McConaughey. Let's see. This is funny. His genuine love for the platform. I like this. So GPT agrees. It is simply his genuine love for the platform. He is not being paid for his work. So congratulations from the Talent Stacker team. So this is beautiful, right? Like we can take this email that came in, then we can reply with it while referencing standard operating procedures from our company. And then we can actually get our contact record updated because it scraped data out of that email and dropped it in to a related contact record, right? So that's a lot of functionality happening. And if this is the real world and I'm not demoing it, I could get through all this in about 5 minutes. This check, everything looks good, make some edits to that email, send it out. And this used to take 15 minutes. So you're talking about something that happens 1,000 times a year. And you're talking about it taking 15 minutes 1,000 times a year and now taking 5 minutes 1,000 times a year. So it saved us, it's going to, over the next year, it's going to save us about 10 minutes 1,000 times. All right. So we're going to save 10,000 minutes on this. So that helps in a number of ways. So I'm going to jump into that in the presentation. But first I wanted to show you, I mean, a lot of you, especially if you're technical, you're like, how, like, why is this even possible? And let's hop over and see how it's possible. This is nuts, right? Like I'm not a flow expert, but we're talking a flow process that is relatively simple. Now, I did get some assistance from AI Force to get this implemented. So specifically, Margaret was helping me out as a friend to get this implemented, and I do appreciate that. And so I'm not going to dig into the actual details of how this is built out. But bottom line is we start with a case being created or updated. We get that AI email suggestion by actually pushing that information to our, basically our large language model that is then going to give us a suggested AI email back. And this is also going to pick up our standard operating procedures and make sure that they incorporate our standard operating procedures into the response. It's then going to get an AI record update. It's going to update the case, like we just mentioned, with this AI update. And then it's going to update the contact record with the data that it scrapes out of that email. So this happens very quickly. We update the case, we update the contact, we're good to go. So it's incredible how quickly we can have this happen. And like we said, we were watching a video of some chickens and goats while basically our job got done for us. So what are some key takeaways from what we just saw there? Number one, security. I've heard this a lot. It is an extremely fair concern to have. I had this concern as well, massively had this concern. And that's why we actually, everything you saw today in this demo, no information left our company server space. So what does that mean? Basically, we have a server through, I believe through Microsoft, and that's where our server is basically hosted. We have a large language model with our own license to it. We are not using a third party where we are pushing that data out. We actually have licensing into our very own large language model. Anyone can do this. It's not like some secret talent stacker has, but I guess it is a secret talent stacker has, because I'm not going to tell you exactly how that works. But the large language model rests on our server, meaning our data leaves our Salesforce org. It goes to our own partition server, utilizing our own locally on that server installed large language model, and then it brings that information back. So there's no push out to OpenAI. There's no push out to any other large language model. It is installed on our servers, which keeps our data safe. And that means all the standard operating procedures I mentioned, that secure information like the email addresses, how much these people are making and where they're working, that is extremely sensitive data. But it never left the integrity of my company's systems. So that's a big thing. The next one, standard operate. Oh, I'll mention to you, I put a note down here so I don't do things like forget. No license cost, right? So like you purchase up front, you own the technology. That was massive for us. Like the last thing I want is overhead of a constantly changing price structure for my large language model, constantly changing functionality and results for my model. I control my model and I control the cost of that model because I paid for it up front. So these are a lot of things that people are not aware of because they go, oh, I need a trust layer to have security. So I'm just going to stop because I can't move forward. And I think when we looked at it, we went, this is incredibly vital technology. The last thing I'm going to do is stop because there's a blocker. Like if you have a company, an employer, a client run into a roadblock with functionality or requirement, you don't stop, you figure it out. And so we figured it out. So standard operating procedures, this is huge. They are built into our functionality. This means we don't get these little, thank you for your email general response like you would get from going to ChatGPT with some, canned response, baked, it's not a canned response, but a baked in custom response that kind of says the same thing in 10 different ways, means nothing to Talent Stacker as a company, means nothing to the member as a Talent Stacker member. These are all things that we have to bake in. So it's not going to know we have a career accelerator program. It's not going to know that we have an alumni Facebook group. It's not going to know that there is a referral program. It's not going to know those things. So the standard operating procedures allow it to do that. Now, the even bigger and better thing for this is that I could have technically an entry-level support person who's maybe had, 3 to 4 hours of training. They kind of understand the business, how it works, what we do, what happens, and they could read that email and they could see it. And now they know they're following standard operating procedures because it's happening automatically. So I don't have to train people for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks before they're useful at anything. They can actually be very useful right out of the gates because they have an assistant. And so we're going back to AI and GPT are assistants for Salesforce professionals. So now if I have this embedded inside of my Salesforce org, by default, everybody who joins my company and logs into my Salesforce org has a personal assistant helping them with whatever they're working on. And that is a beautiful thing. Last thing, data scraping. So as you'll notice in there, it was actually able to grab information from text, from a block of text, and it was able to go through that information, reference it, pull out viable information that it felt was meaningful, and then populate that on another record. It's pretty impressive. All right, saving time and money. This is huge. If you're a business owner, if you're a business decision maker, or if you're somebody trying to convince your employer that it's important that you learn these skills, this is why it matters. All right, so in the example in the demo, that was a jobs landed process. Like I said, 15 minutes, now takes 5. That's a 66% improved efficiency on that process. It's one process. That one process saves 10,000 minutes a year. That's huge. Now, outside of that, because when we talk about, I guess I'll get into it in this next little section, efficiency. When we talk about the ability to cut down, what it allows is for companies like us, where if we're going through an economic contraction where things are pulling in, the more processes that we have automated, the less layoffs we have to conduct, or the less, hard conversations we have to have with our staff about what's going on. So because we've embedded a lot of automations even before GPT, but now with GPT and AI, we've literally gone through this, what you've seen is a major economic contraction, and our staff has not been impacted at all. No one has been talked to about their job security, and we feel extremely confident about their job security. That's a beautiful thing when you've looked at headlines recently, and this type of technology is therefore going to make a huge push in the ecosystem as companies attempt to scale while not having to be so reliant on human capital. That can be good, that can be bad. Historically, we've seen that when you're able to increase your technology and the advancement of technology, largely you're going to hire more skilled individuals that are paid at a higher rate. And you're going to be able to grow your company faster, which means you're going to do more and more and need more and more. And largely the jobs that are lost because of advances in technology are recouped in multiplier by the jobs that are created with advances in technology. So efficiency, new employees able to get started much faster. SOPs followed automatically. We do more with less, giving vastly improved efficiency. So this means we don't have to lay off when times are getting rough. And when we see massive expansion, we have these things built in and they're sustainable and scalable. So we don't have to hire rapidly when times are good. Automatic data input with personalized communication. It's beautiful. We get that email back. They were actually, a really kind tone that they were giving back to that member, letting them know everything they needed, and then giving a nod to their Matthew McConaughey, ridiculousness in the email. Money. Imagine sales and support being just 50% more productive. You don't have to be 66%. Let's make it 50%. Let's make it 20%, 10%. I believe that most companies, if they thought they could get 10% more productivity out of their sales and support teams alone, they'd be thrilled. Tens of thousands of dollars in annual savings, even with small teams and minimal processes, scale faster, lay off slower. All right. So that is really the bulk of the presentation. There are a few things that I want to point out. Number one, if you are an established Salesforce professional and you want to get started, understanding more about what Talent Stacker is up to help you, we've actually, I don't want to say we can take credit for, but we can take credit for assisting the start of multiple Salesforce consultancies, because the founders of those consultancies actually use the Salesforce Career Accelerator program to build their company. It's a beautiful thing I saw on LinkedIn last week. One of the people who went through the career advancement program is hiring their third employee right now. So they've got this post up that's, hey, we're hiring, excited to expand the business in the middle of an economic contraction. Love to see it. We also help individuals get into, like I said, if you want to get into a quote unquote dream job, I don't know if any of us dream of working, but as close as you can get to a dream job, getting into companies that align with your goals. We have one-on-one career coaching that actually help you through understanding the next steps that you need to take. We have goal setting, journaling, and working with your coach to make sure that you're taking the next step to progress yourself, whether that's through branding. We don't really do much with certifications. This is more about career design and less about trying to become a technical architect. But largely, if you feel overwhelmed at work, if you feel like you're not in love with your job, if you feel like you're underpaid, if you feel like you want to start a business, but you're not really sure how to take that from step one to reality, that's pretty much what we do by taking your Salesforce skills and turning them into a life you can enjoy. If you're entry level, if you're new to Salesforce, haven't landed that first Salesforce job yet, highly recommend the free 5-day challenge. It's a great way to get started and better understand the ecosystem. You want to connect with me? There's my LinkedIn. And like I said, I pretty much never stop talking. So between TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, podcast, all the handles on there are Salesforce for everyone. So if you go to any one of those platforms and just search Salesforce for everyone, you are going to find us. And I hope you've enjoyed this presentation. I hope you got some value out of it. And if you have any questions, hit me up on LinkedIn. I reply to all of my DMs. And I appreciate you guys hanging out and actually listening to me talk about things going on my side of the fence. So thanks, everybody. And I hope you have a great time adopting GPT and bringing it sort of into your career and your business.
Thanks so much, Bradley, for sharing your insights with the community and for your work as a leader in the AI space. It was really nice to see that demo today. I know that's something you've been working on for a while. Next up, I'll be stepping off stage and to the desk to prepare to present the current state of ISVs, which use GPT tech to provide solutions. I'll give you the details on what's out there, what's in the works, and what you can use today. Take a moment, grab a snack or a cup of coffee, and maybe queue up your favorite AI bot to help you take notes. And we'll be back on the hour. Join the next session from the lobby when it's available, and I will see you there.